Hey, welcome to the Ardhi Real Estate Podcast. I am your host for now, Ryan Fagan, broker owner of Ardhi Real Estate. Over 10 years of real estate experience as a salesperson and as an investor where I own over 10 rental units, done 6 flips. Also been in property preservation, a licensed mortgage loan officer, and I've been a real estate analyst at a commercial real estate firm. And we have a tremendous panel of Ardhi real estate agents here, as well as we are going to be talking about an interesting topic that has to do with home affordability, but it's not about interest rates. It's not about price. It's about zoning laws. And we have an interesting video that we are going to show to you guys. But first, let's introduce our panel. What's going on, guys?
What's going on?
Hey.
Hey, I'm Cassandra Spruill.
And I'm Danny Curtis, known as Danny Deals via Instagram _Danny Deals. Holla at me if you hear me.
Hey. Cassandra.
Yes.
You're being funny already.
Funny
Wow.
money.
Tell the people.
Tell the people, what do the people want to know?
I don't know. I'm just giving you a hard time. It's fine.
Let's roll the video.
Cue the video.
84% of newly built single-family homes sold in 2022 belong to what's called a homeowners association, which are organizations that oversee properties in a community. But there's been a backlash to HOAs because of some homeowners' negative experiences.
I'm a huge believer that, you do sign away your civil rights when you're signing into an HOA or a condo association.
It's a matter of personal preference. Some people like anchovies on their pizza and some don't.
Homeowners associations are run by a board of directors that's made up of volunteers who own property in the community. The HOA typically handles communal responsibilities, which can vary from managing amenities such as swimming pools to making sure property owners follow home maintenance rules. The board may hire a management company, which tend to be for-profit. A big part of an HOA sales pitch is that the presence of the organization can help increase property values.
The board is responsible for protecting property values. For most people in the United States, the single biggest investment they're ever going to make.
There's mixed evidence about whether this is true. A 2019 study found that on average, HOA homes cost at least 4% more than non-HOA homes. That comes out to an extra $13,500. But those property values can vary significantly by location. A different 2019 analysis of 3 U.S. cities found that the home values in HOA areas were less than those in neighborhoods without them.
I would feel bad, selling this home to someone else, especially if they don't know what's been going on in the neighborhood. And I feel like I would probably just be like, hey, look, I don't think you want to move in this neighborhood. You may want to think about it.
So guys, that was a very informative Vox video. They do actually a lot of cool videos on housing. We had to chop it down, obviously, for a time, but I would recommend you guys check out the full version, which is going to be a link in the description. It's 9 minutes and 41 seconds, and it is super informative. So let's talk about zoning, because it's funny because we always talk about price, interest rates, supply and demand and stuff like that. We never talk about like some of the nuance or underlying reasons. And I actually think this is a really big problem. And I think it's a problem with the suburbs, because how do you guys feel about living in the suburbs generally?
I like living in the suburbs.
Why? Do you like driving everywhere?
I don't mind driving. Also, I like a front and a backyard. I like just development.
This is the problem with housing right there, these suburbanites. No, I feel the same way. Yeah. But I do, when I go to Philly, right, I think it is cool that you could just go outside and you can interact with other humans.
Right.
And have a conversation, and, there's an energy to that. And you can go to like your local, the local bar. You'll meet people in the community, in the neighborhood, or restaurant, or whatever. Right. And in the suburbs, I think a big problem or criticism is that you are isolated. Okay, so I go out my house, I get in my car, I go to Starbucks. I'm at Starbucks. There's like 3 people there. I get my Starbucks, I get back in my car, and I go somewhere else.
Right.
And there's no organic space for interactions as much,
Right.
which is isolating.
Well, I think that if the space or the suburb, should I say, was a little bit more developed, like with small businesses, things of that nature, like to give an example of like a Collinswood or a Haddonfield, where they had their small strip of the city life, like, or right where we are right now.
They have a
And
downtown.
Mount Holly.
though.
Exactly. You got a downtown, but a suburb. So you can make it what it needs to be, but you have to develop the businesses to do so.
Well, the zoning has to allow it because sometimes there's just not enough space in your lot size, as we have in the video. You might not be able to build that type of business. Cassandra, how do you feel about suburban living?
I enjoy suburban living.
Oh man,
You mentioned like getting in your car, going to Starbucks, and getting in your car and going somewhere else, and you said that it was isolation, but I feel like it's peace. I like a quality shopping experience.
it's not quality.
I feel like it's peaceful in regards to like, I mean, the stores are better, the businesses are better, just being outside, just everything is better to me, right? Versus city living where it's like the hustle and bustle, overcrowded, it's people everywhere, you're on top of each other. Yeah, I like the peacefulness, the quietness of living in the suburbs and all that it entails. I like driving in my car and going to Starbucks.
Aren't we just antisocial today?
I feel like, no, it's not even that, but I feel like if I want, I'm a suburban girl, but if I want the hustle and bustle and being around people, then I'll just take the drive into the city and congregate with the people. But on the everyday living, I want peace and quiet on my street. Like,
Oh, I have so much to say, but let me go with the health and wellness aspect, right? Because if you could walk to the coffee shop or get some groceries down the street and it was walkable, or to visit your friends, that would be healthier. Like, for example, in Europe, they're able to walk or ride bikes and do stuff, and pretty much they don't need a car. And they're a little bit healthier. You don't want that? You don't care? How do you feel?
no.
Car.
Well, think about it this way, right? Yeah, while they can walk and do all that kind of good stuff, you have parks and recreations in the suburbs for that type of activity. Unfortunately, in today's generation and the society as we stand, after the pandemic, we don't have as much like people outside. Like pickleball courts are packed in the summertime. You know how many people are at pickleball courts? It's crazy. You know what I mean? And that's a suburbs type of thing. You're not going to find a pickleball court. Yeah, you have to drive.
You have to drive to the park. That's ridiculous. Come on now.
Well, you don't have to drive to every park. That's number one. It depends on where you're living. So if you lived in Gloucester, like say you lived in Gloucester Township, the Gloucester Township Park is kind of right in the middle of all the developments in that area. Or if you were in Blackwood, it's another Gloucester Township Park in Blackwood that's around a bunch of schools, houses, things of that nature. So it really depends on what area you're in, whether it's going to be a walkable distance or not. Now, where I'm at in Williamstown, I don't know where the nearest park is, but I'm sure there's someone or somewhere, close to us. Like, actually, it's right at the Williamstown High School, and the Little League plays there and everything like that. So the families that live in these communities, they typically congregate within those given sections of where the parks and recreations are at. So they get the health benefits as well, just not on a consistent basis as you would if you're in the city, because it's forced.
Right. So people will drive to the gym to run on the treadmill for an hour.
Right.
And imagine if you could just be outside and go places in your course of your day. You wouldn't have to waste an hour going to the gym when you would just be walking and going places.
True.
It's not appealing to
walking
anyone.
and going places immediately. No.
No, you don't want to walk.
True, but
It's
then
not. If I want to walk, then I'm gonna go to the park. If I want to walk,
right.
I'll walk around the block, walking the dog.
But you
before
could
it hit
you
the
could
treadmill.
you could get your walking in while you're accomplishing things,
And that goes right back into the hustle and bustle, right? So when you're living in the suburbs, most people want to stray away from the hustle and bustle and do it leisurely. So like if you're in the suburbs, I can tell you right now, like it's mad trails and different things that you can walk and hike and all that kind of good stuff.
But
where
you
I live
won't
at.
see other humans.
You
there.
will see other humans.
You will?
Actually. Yeah, you will. If you go to the dog park, that's right
The
in
dog
Blackwood.
park.
Oh my God, there's so many people walking their dogs out there. I think more people walk their dogs in the suburbs than they do in the city, or they might not even have dogs in the city. Depending.
I'll be
on
seeing
where
the
you're at.
happy dogs in the city.
Yeah.
Well behaved. They don't even look at you. They just
Exactly.
walk
That's
right
the
by.
problem. They won't look at you. They know what time it is. They in hustle and bustle mode too.
Yeah, I do. I don't know, man. With the pandemic, and I do feel like people are more isolated, and in the suburbs, if I walk outside, I might not see another human being in my whole neighborhood. If I walked for an hour the other day, I didn't see one person.
Because of it's today's standard.
That
It's
can't
not-
be good for your mental health as like a human being. We're social creatures.
So live in
But
the city.
but again, if you
Where's
want
your
that,
answer?
if you want that, take the drive, spend all day walking the bridge or wherever you want to go, and then come home. Like it's a balance between the two.
Or
Are you
live
moving
in
to
the
Philly?
city.
I'm
moving
playing
to Philly, Rye?
I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit, okay? I'm a suburbanite, and I would make all your guys' arguments. But as someone who is on a land development and zoning board in my town, I do think about a couple things. Back to affordability. If you had kids and stuff, I always make this argument, your kids will never afford to live in your neighborhood that you live in, because there's no affordable housing. And I think that's a problem. There should be some sort of affordable units, and I think the only way to do it is through some level of density, duplexes, fourplexes, 6-unit, 10-unit properties. And I think if they're intermixed within neighborhoods, I don't think it would be a negative impact. And then combine the fact that, like, if you look at my neighborhood, right, just houses and sidewalks that go nowhere. Where are you going to walk on the sidewalk? There's no reason. Imagine there was like a coffee shop and like a small grocery store. Then I could meet my neighbors. I could like just walk outside. I wouldn't have to get in a car, and I could get fresh air. And you would have a normal social interaction. I think a blended urban, suburban lifestyle might make sense. And I think we need to figure it out, because for example, here we have a 1 acre per lot requirement. So, I mean, we're not even addressing that. Like, I don't think anyone's even thought about changing it, right? So we're just doing things because they've always been done that way.
Mm-hmm.
Would you approve?
Whoa. Don't ask me political questions.
Would you like your neighborhood to be converted to multi-unit? This
No.
very neighborhood?
So I read an interesting book, which I can't remember, when I was going to Temple. And it really made a lot of sense, where in the suburbs, this is another problem with suburban design, is that everything is placed in blocks. Like, okay, here's the shopping area, and here's the residential area, and here's where people work at, right? Like, the problem is, first of all, you create traffic because everyone's driving in the same direction. So you have one side of the road not being used while the other side of the road is, because everyone's going, say, north to the shopping areas. And then once the work is over, then they're coming south. And so you're not really utilizing your roads effectively. The other thing is, if you mix different income groups, you actually get a better community overall, because like the low income will kind of be policed by the higher income people, because they'll have an invested interest in the community. What happens is, if you put all low income stuff in one section, it becomes blighted, because that's the only place they can go. And it becomes, like you create ghettos basically that way. So if you had a mixture of single family houses, higher end houses, 4-6 unit properties, then you could blend things, right? You would have a blended community of different types of people. And, you would have some elderly people, you'd have some young people who could afford, to buy maybe a one unit or a condo or like something, or rent from one of the units versus, the rent's so high everywhere now. And I think this needs more investigation. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I mean, I'm just taking a little piece of what you said, but is it the income or is it the people?
It's both. So this is a secret way of doing discrimination is by price. Now, here in New Jersey, we have the Mount Laurel case, which if you guys aren't aware, New Jersey, and it's so controversial, and I think this is the problem, right? So to address affordable housing, there was a court case in Mount Laurel where they sued and said, basically the result was, because I don't know everything about the case, but the result was every town has to have some amount of affordable housing. The problem is the zoning doesn't allow you to organically build it because it's not profitable. It's only profitable to build the most expensive single family that you can build on a lot because they don't allow density. So what happens is it leads to like corruption or like inefficiency. So for example, now there's like affordable housing credits and stuff like that where the government has to just give money to the developers to provide this low income housing. And then they put all the low income housing in one part of the town and try to hide it. And it creates, like I was saying, like low income areas where like the kids that come from those neighborhoods, they'll make fun of at school and all that kind of stuff because you're not mixing everything. So I think it's a problem.
No, it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. Hence why the court case.
Right, exactly. So I don't know. How can we make how can we make things more affordable, housing more affordable because I don't like, not to get political, but I don't like when the government tries to execute on it. I'd rather them make the zoning and the rules attractive to developers to organically build the community rather than the government being like, oh, you should build this here and here's a credit. Because again, now you're choosing the developer who gets this sweetheart deal to build affordable housing versus the best developer that builds the best affordable housing is going to be able to do it. I think it's not good. So what if Cassandra, if you were the queen of your town and you wanted to get affordable housing in, like what would you do? Or do you just be like, or are you of the opinion, just live somewhere cheaper? Like what are your thoughts on that?
If I was the queen, see, I don't know. I feel like I'm on both sides of the fence with this one.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Welcome
Would it be
her.
nice to mix it in? Sure. But then I feel like that could be a disadvantage to the people who can afford housing, right? I don't know.
So the conventional wisdom is that if a cheaper house is next to your house, it will hurt your property value.
Right.
But if communities, if newer communities were allowed to be a bit more mixed, right? I don't know if that would always hold true. You just want to comp the if there's like a 1,200 square foot house and a 2,500 square foot house next to each other, the smaller house just isn't a comp.
True.
Is it necessary? Like, are they gonna bother? Like, I don't get the thing with them living next to you. That's such a problem.
But even if you were to take that example, so say for instance you have a bigger house, $500,000, and then the one next door is half the price, $22,000. Wow.
You don't want the brokies living next to you?
No. And cool. So you guys are living there. But once I sell my house, you now have equity in that $250K house, right? And that house now shoots up and it's no longer affordable.
I don't think that.
It goes back to it's a full circle. It's full circle on that one.
Yeah, but I don't think you're going to compare those houses. You're going to compare even in this neighborhood, there's different model homes, right?
True.
So you're not really going to compare the rancher to the bi-level. If there's other rancher comps, you're not going to use them, you know?
But it does give you some leeway or some equity with it. But
Cassandra's bougie. She just don't want the brokies living next to her, and that's really what this is coming down. Which honestly is the problem, right? That's why the zoning is, because the people that have the money are the people that show up politically, and they exert their will more than everyone else.
So I think we need to make some clarification, because we keep throwing around the term affordable housing. What does that price point look like, and who typically can, or who is the demographic that are put forth for affordable housing?
I think affordable housing, and New Jersey has their own definition or whatever, but whatever the median income is in your, say, zip code, half of that on an annual basis or on a monthly basis, right? So if the median income is $2,500 a month, maybe $1,200 a month on based off of your mortgage calculation, et cetera, and that's a problem now because interest rates are high,
right? So
the affordability has gotten out of control in that aspect as well,
right?
And then the demographics tricky. I mean, I don't know if that should be per se the consideration. I think whoever the working class people are, the working class people.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
But that is the history of this kind of stuff, because it's funny. After World War II, we got to do a topic about this. After World War II, William Levitt, who actually built Levittown / Willingboro down the street from where we're at right now, was revolutionized making affordable single-family homes in the suburbs where everyone moved to. Those properties had a deed restriction where black people weren't even allowed to buy them.
Right.
So that was their solution. So they didn't worry about zoning because they literally just had deed restrictions to exclude the people that they didn't want.
Exactly.
And nowadays,
it's that affordable housing, right?
Well, at the time, the thing is, after the war, everyone was using a VA loan, so they were getting in those houses for no money down, and then their payments were like $120 a month, but inflation, blah blah.
Right.
So yeah.
So I guess when you look at the overall scope of things, it's like each area has its own situation going on. Kind of just touching back on Cassandra's topic of like, you don't want the house next door to bring down your value, this and the third. So my proposal, or what I would do, and thinking about developing, is a lot of these developers make the same houses across the board.
Oh, it's annoying.
Every single house is the same. It's probably one or two different models or whatever case may be, but it's really up to the developer to make that particular development, affordable. So when they're building these houses, if you're, let's just take, I believe there's the Canuso brothers, out in like the Williamstown area or Blackwood area. When they make their homes, years back, they were high end, 300,000 or whatever case may be. You bought it through them. Everything was just through them. You came there, they were already pretty much sold before they were built. And then now the same builders, same style homes are 600,000. So it's like, when you set your price, obviously I understand inflation and all that kind of good stuff, but when you're setting your price as a developer, you kind of control the destiny of what that development looks like. So if I'm a developer, I would more than likely, like, my goal is to make sure that the housing is affordable for any demographic.
No, that's the mistake. Developers don't care about that. It's a business. The only thing that corporations care about, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, because I agree with it, actually. I believe in the free market. They want to make money. So if my lot, and so what they do is look at your zoning and say, okay, how do we make the most money? Affordability is not a consideration.
But that's what I'm saying should be. Like, if I'm...
No, you can't make a business should anything.
It's not about making a business. I'm saying if I am the mayor of Whoville and you're a developer, you want to come into Whoville, okay, you're looking at two different sections of Whoville, the right section, the left section. Okay. Well, listen, if you want both sections, you can have both sections. But the stipulation when you buy both sections is one should be or can only go up to this amount for the sole purpose of diversification, whatever the case may be. The second side, you can do whatever you want with it, but that's not the reality. The reality is, like you said, developers come in, they're going to make their prices whatever they can make the most money off of.
Well, the issue is that the town doesn't own the land.
Right.
See, this is a big mess because I see in all these Facebook groups all the time, oh, another fast food place getting built. We don't need that. And it's like, well, you can buy the land and build whatever you want.
Right.
These companies are looking at the zoning and what the demographics are, the income, and they are saying, this, I think, will be the best thing for our business to build.
Right.
So the only thing that a city can do is create a structure that would make them look at that piece of property and think that it was attractive to build more affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only really way to do that would be to allow different densities and building heights.
Right.
Otherwise, you will have to do what you're saying, and it's provide incentives, tax credits, etc. But you're relying on the government to make smart decisions.
I mean, but the government makes the decision to give those incentives and tax credits and things of that nature when you need affordable housing.
And I'm against that, is what I'm saying. I think that's a
But
bad
that's
way.
the way it's going to come about. I feel like the government has to regulate it because a lot of these builders are going in with that idea of making the most money. But the only way that it could go is lifting up the zoning laws and allowing and building more affordable housing.
Right. But there's a differentiation between the government putting their hands in it and being giving money and giving your tax dollars or abatements and special deals to the developer versus here's the playing field and we're going to change it where this is more attractive. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Okay, so the rules of football, people play the game a certain way based off of the rules. And if you change the rules, they were played like tackling, right?
But the rules are consistently changed every year.
And because they changed the rules, players play differently, right? The game was more physical. Sorry, Cassandra, if you're not in the football or audience. But tackling, like the game used to be more brutal.
Right.
And now it's not, based off of the rules.
Because of the transition of where the game is going for the viewer's experience.
So my argument, hopefully this makes sense, is that we need to change the rules. And you guys won't like it because now the brokies live next to you.
So catch what I just said. So the rules are changed not for the game, but for the viewer's experience. Mm-hmm. Today's game, and sorry for utilizing such a long analogy, but today's game is provided for more scoring opportunities, more excitement, to sell more tickets. It's not for us to watch the hard ins and outs of football that, you know, a coach from, you know, Dick LeBeau would want to see back in the day. Now it's literally for us to be in front of the TV and be locked into a game, not on just Sunday, but on 4 different days of the week. And you want to watch every single game now. You want to watch every single team. So the reason why I'm saying that is that began to create diversity. You know how many people are, say, Eagles fans or Cowboys fans or Giants fans, whatever the case may be, but they'll watch a Thursday night game with the Jets versus the Chiefs as Aaron Rodgers and, you know, and Patrick Mahomes is playing. They're not sticking to just their team. So what I'm trying to say is if the rules are changed to make that same type of effect on the demographic or the mix of people that are living in a particular area just solely based on income and what they can afford, I think the trajectory of development would change in a positive fashion because not everybody that's making, for example, the $100,000 that your grandma made is not the $100,000 that you have right now just based on inflation. So if you change the rules to where every, a decent amount of people's income can go towards housing, and to where they can afford it and not be going under foreclosure, things of that nature, you really will get a diverse group that will, in my opinion, uphold what and value what they have, because it's what they can afford, and it's nicer than, having to make something out of nothing in a place where they don't necessarily want to be. But more importantly, and my other thought with this is, you mentioned it earlier about HOAs. I think a big thing that should be done, I get it, when you own a property, it's yours and whatever the case may be. But I think there needs to be some type of stipulation or HOA involved where you have to keep your grass cut and cleaned and your property looking nice, so you don't devalue the development that happened. It should be upkept. And if that is also worked into this entire scheme or plan that we're talking about, your place won't lose value, because it's automatically instilled that you have to keep it up. All right. I'm not saying like, okay, you're not going to change your siding every 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to happen. So you're not sitting there painting your siding a different color, things like that. Like, people don't typically do that. I'm not saying that they need a HOA where in Florida your house can only be orange and everybody's house is orange. But what I am saying is, the general stuff, the trash collection, the groundskeeping, as far as like making sure the yard is cut and it's looking presentable. I think all of that stuff plays a factor in how much a house is worth later down the line. And the upkeep of your house is mandatory based on these stipulations to buy in this particular area, whether that's a HOA or however we do it. If that is instilled and it's affordable, there's no lose-lose situation. The issue is people, what people hear when they hear affordable housing is people that come in don't take care of their house, windows is broken, trash hanging out all over the place, is all types of cars parked up, and this and the third. You need to have some type of regulation, and people like order.
Well, my argument is that negative perception of affordable housing is because it is governmentally dictated and not done through the market.
But that's the thing, is government dictated to the person buying, not necessarily to the developer.
No, it is to the developer, because in here, we've had a community where they give them basically a tax abatement, and you get all these credits. Like, they make money before they even break ground and build it. And so I don't know. I think when the government directs things, it gets jacked up.
All right, so let me give you an example. Winslow Township. Are we familiar? Okay, if you go in I don't know if it's like the E section, V section, whatever section it is, in the back of Winslow Township, there's townhomes, and they are ran down. I'm sure, almost 100% sure, that the affordable housing demographic doesn't own those houses, but it's ran down. You getting your rent, you getting whatever. You're probably getting your Section 8 checks and things of that nature, because Winslow and Blackwood and things of that, areas in that capacity were sent people from the city on Section 8. Here you go. Just like a couple of those places that were hidden in Mount Laurel, right?
Well, that's why we want them to own them.
Exactly. That's my point.
But you will, but with your thing, if you make, because there are affordable properties that you can purchase that they do have like price caps on, but then it's kind of like you don't own it because you can't benefit from the sale of it a lot of times, or you cannot sell it for over a certain amount. And so why the heck am I going to care about the condition of the property? And that's how you get them to be run down and all that kind of stuff.
Right. So again, if the stipulations weren't like you're saying,
I don't think you're going to be able to make enough rules to make people care.
You can always make enough rules.
What do you think, Cassandra?
I think you guys both have solid points. I feel like you're going to call me bougie, but I feel like if you can afford the house, then then buy the house. If you can't afford the house, then buy a house that you can afford.
What if there's no houses that regular people can afford? Because that's where we're going. That's my concern, right?
A bigger problem.
Like, imagine, I'm not going to put this on you, but you know, you have kids and all that kind of stuff. Whatever. Wouldn't you be concerned, like, wow, they can't own a house?
What, my kids?
Yeah.
No.
That's
Why
not
would
a
I be
concern?
concerned that they can't own a house. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that they're ready to go.
That part.
You guys are hardcore, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point, though, right? I mean, you think of anybody that lives in a good neighborhood, has a good job, has a good situation. If they're parenting correct and they're guiding their kids along the right way and they're setting them up for success, which unfortunately, a lot of people in the minority community, I'm just going to say it, in our community, they don't do that thing. It's a leave when you're 18, figure it out on your own. Whereas though you go into a Indian household, who's focused on school and this, that, and the third and being a doctor, or even an African household, like you coming home, you staying at home until you're 25. They're making you, put checks to the side so you can go ahead and then put your down payment of 20% or whatever. They understand the financials. They understand all that kind of good stuff going into it. So their kids are growing up and buying those houses that you're talking about. Like if I'm in that situation, I should be financially aware to know that I have to get my child ready to be able to make these purchases as they come. It's a part of life. If you don't do that, then you're underserving your child and you're not parenting correct. And that's just the end of the story. That's the end of the story.
Yeah, he said, "Let him eat cake."
That's a good point for personal freedoms and hey, do good and so you can afford it. But I think housing is a cornerstone of society, and I think that you want people to be property owners, and the way things is going, less and less people are going to be able to be property owners, and you are going to have, I think, in an indirect way, it gets to more crime, it gets to more problems, and then in those areas where there are less higher income stuff, they're going to degrade. And the problem is, all that's cool and everything until you have enough desperate people and they're going to come take your stuff.
See, so let me.
Because, like, even in Philly, I was downtown, Rittenhouse and all that stuff, and I was with my cousin, and he was like, you would have never seen that 10 years ago. Like, crazy stuff going on. And you could think you can be insulated in your communities from the degradation of society, but I think
you're never insulated.
You're not insulated, and it's getting bad. And I agree. Hey, your family should have helped you figure it out. I don't know, man. I think it's going to be a bigger societal problem,
right? It's just not.
It is happening.
No, I'm talking about the family helping and all that kind of good stuff. Like that stuff doesn't happen all the time. That's why I just gave you that example of and even in my household, it was, when you turn 18, you're grown. Go figure it out. I never got.
But imagine. My problem is, imagine that there's really. I see. I don't want to say there's not opportunity because there's always opportunity, right? But it's getting tighter and tighter. You know what I mean? Imagine.
Is it getting tighter or is it the mentality getting tighter?
Okay, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, the future you in bizarro world graduates college and you get a good salary. Maybe at that time it's 75 starting. But the starter home is $1 million. You'll never get there. And no matter how good you are, you're screwed.
That's not necessarily true. Well, first of all,
I like your attitude about it,
because this is kind of, again, a learning curve, and I had to learn a lot of this stuff on my own. But once I have a child off rip, I already know what college is, how much it costs, and where a lot of the money goes.
But I'm not talking about that, because you're talking about getting that support.
No,
what about someone that doesn't have that support?
Exactly. It's about about somebody that doesn't get that support.
Who didn't have
they're not again, if they
You don't got a shot, bro.
yeah, you don't have a shot in the sense of like if you don't do, again, we keep on talking about due diligence, but if you don't do diligence to learn, like you're not.
There ain't no learning that's going to get you that $1 million house
Yes,
right
it is.
then.
It really is, and you want to know why? Because it's ways to go about it. Just because there's a $1 million price tag on it doesn't mean you need to buy that $1 million home.
No. What I'm saying is that going starter home is $1 million. So
But why
the
are we-
cheapest home in the neighborhood is $800,000.
But again,
I think that's where we're going.
we're selling a dream, though, right? We're selling a dream.
What do you mean?
This whole first time home buyer, buy a single family home right off the bat. Like if you look into it, you just read the right book, look at the right podcast, whatever the case may be. It's no way. Anytime somebody, even myself right now, I put myself, after I bought it, I put my thought, dang, I kind of put myself in a negative hole. You buy a first time home, you are setting yourself up for failure 9 times out of 10.
What? Why?
Because you don't have, like, if your home is taking up 50 to 60%, like just your home, your mortgage, and whatever other like essential subscription bills are taking up 60 to 70% of your income, you're in a bad spot. You can't invest. You really aren't investing your money. You really aren't creating a savings. You barely have a rainy day fund. So if you just do a little bit of research, just a little bit, you would know, okay, if I'm a young cat coming out of college, even if I'm still in college, everybody gets a refund check nowadays. You know, they not forced, but they're pushing on you, taking out loans and things of that nature. If you do a little bit of if you have a little bit of guidance and do a little bit of research, you know, hey, why am I staying on campus paying $10,000 a semester for housing when I can simply go get a single family home if I want? House hack, 4 bedrooms, bring my friends in or whoever else from campus and have them pay me rent and pay off this house. Now I have an asset in my name, things of that nature. You're not getting that education. That education is available, but how many people are actually doing the work to figure that stuff out? Because that's the only way to get ahead with this housing situation, is to make sure that you're financially stable for when the time comes and you do want to buy your dream house. Is how do you get there? What are the steps to get there? The issue is, like, all right, for example, interest rates right now, 8.5, right? Or capped at 8.5, based on a couple of the things that I read recently. Right away, and I think that you actually just posted about this. How many people in our community are going to say, you better not buy nothing right now, you better wait. You better wait 6, 12, 2 years. They don't really know a time frame, but they're going to say 6, 12, 2 years, something like that. Wait till those rates go down. Wait till those rates go down. Okay, well, when the rates go down, what's going to happen to the asking price? That's going to go up. So while your mortgage might be a little bit lower, the actual money that you're paying over the lifetime of that loan, because most of us are going to stick there for a good 6 to 15 years, you're going to be paying so much more on that house than you would if you just go buy it right now at the 8.5 at the price point that it is now, refinance it later. Marry the price, not the rate. You can always you can always date the rate later with a different rate. You can always refinance if that's the strategy that you want to play. People that have money, like I was just talking to a guy today. He told me, he said, if I had all the money in my pocket right now, I would still buy. Why wait on the sidelines? Buy right now, because at the end of the day, when the rates go down, the opportunity and the housing and the available units are still going to be the same. So what are they going to do? They're going to push the money up. So why not go buy right now? You might have to sit 6, 12 months on this rate, but I can always get a better rate down the line. You know what I mean? We're not thinking like that. We're thinking like, yo, let me rent, and then let me rent, and let me spend more money, spend more money. When you're going to be spending that money either way, where's your money going? Let's figure that out. Let's figure out how to spend it correctly.
Cassandra, how are you feeling? You good?
I'm good. I'm just listening.
How's the coffee?
It was great.
Yeah. How's that water? It looks very good in that glass.
Water is fine.
What's up? What are your thoughts? You've been quiet today. The world wants to hear from you.
We switched places now.
Yeah. Danny changed his energy. Now you're Danny.
I told you I was waiting for the
Oh,
for the spotlight.
he was singing.
I agree with a lot of the things Danny said. Usually I'm the girl with the rebuttal.
Wow.
Cassandra, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Let me ask you a question. You're a luxury lifestyle woman.
Okay.
I know you are. Right? I know you are. Who would you like if you, Cassandra, owned a luxury house in a luxury development? Who would you like to see living in that same place? Not necessarily the racial ethnicity or anything like that, but what types of people would you like to see in that development?
The same kind of people as me.
Okay, what is that? Elaborate a little more for me.
People that can afford that kind of house. People in that luxury lifestyle feel. Or enjoy the things that I enjoy. I want to see, and it doesn't necessarily matter. The race doesn't matter, but I do want to, make sure my neighbor's house is on the same level, if not better than mine.
Right.
And I want to be surrounded by that. I don't
Right.
want to live next to someone who, is in a lower, half the price of my house. Like, now we're changing the whole dynamic of the
Y'all
neighborhood.
better hope no brokies watch this, because they coming to rob your ass.
Okay, so I'm usually the pull yourself up by your bootstraps person.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm usually bougie and elitist, and you have outdone me in all these categories today.
Who?
Both of you.
I don't think so.
I'm like
I made a
bleeding.
great point.
Maybe I'm not as bad as everyone says I am.
You are.
Because I want a community. I want people to be afforded the opportunity to live in my community. I would not mind if I lived in $1 million house where someone had a $250,000 house next door.
Rye's saying he's tired of paying for people's shit that don't got money.
So Ryan, I get that, right? But why does it have to be such a disparity? Why does it have to be such a disparity?
Because
this is not the place for that. Like,
because then you're creating bad neighbor. I'm telling you, this is the issue: is that if you're just going to put so you're always going to have the hood. And my thing is, we want to. Look,
hold on.
If you had a very cheap house next to a middle class house, like you could blend the community. But what's happening is,
so what you're not speaking about, you're kind of prefacing this entire thing by saying blending the community. That's not exactly what's happening. What you're saying is the standard of someone's living situation is going to be dictated based on what they see in the surrounding area. So if I have a $500,000 house and then I have someone that comes in and they buy a $150,000 house next to me, they're going to treat a $150,000 house like I treat my $500,000 house. That's not the case. That's just not the case.
that is okay. So for example,
because people are people, right? So
no. Here's what happened. Here's human nature, right? Like, okay, in this neighborhood, if you don't take care of your property, your neighbor's going to complain. They're going to go to the township. They're going to say, oh, they're doing this, they're doing that. They're going to give you a ticket for not taking care of your stuff. You don't need a HOA for that, by the way. And they're going to kind of try to keep you in line with the neighborhood.
No.
But what if you have that individual who doesn't care about any
the price? The price point does not set the standard.
Yeah, I'm saying like you might have somebody, they do all that, they get the tickets, they just don't care about the maintenance and upkeep of their house. Like,
that's a personal problem.
So me, it
could happen.
Neighbors are subject to that because.
Let me give you an example.
You want to mix neighborhoods?
Let me give you an example. I just bought my house in Williamstown.
Mm-hmm.
My house was shit. It's terrible. Greenhouse, like light mint green, like nasty. All new development around me. Greenhouse, rancher, terrible. Biggest lot in my surrounding area, by the way. Horrible. Okay. Fix my house. Outside is gorgeous, black and white. Neighbors come by. Oh my God, this is so nice. Oh, just sitting there with their dogs, just talking up a storm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bought my house for $225,000. Okay, there's a house, 5 houses down on the corner, huge house, $550,000.
Mm-hmm.
That house, they cut their grass one time every month and a half. The grass is up to their knees.
Mm-hmm.
The siding, the house hasn't been washed in probably 5 years.
Yeah, I get it. But what I'm saying,
so that's what I'm saying is the price point doesn't set the person's standard. Like
Yeah.
the rest of the neighborhood is nice, but this particular person that lives in this particular house runs down the house.
We're not going to act like the class of people that live in an area is somewhat income based, though. You know, like I mean, it does matter though.
It matters
as a whole. So like
it matters, but at the end of the day, if you can afford a home, $1-2 million home in this place or whatever, and you do everything that you do right now, like with Ardhi Real Estate, you have people in the backyard, we're doing the mixers and this, that, and the third. If the surrounding area doesn't necessarily agree with that, are you going to stop what you're doing, or are you going to keep doing it?
Well, they've been calling the cops,
right? And you keep doing it, right? So
yeah, but it makes you mindful.
Mindful is one thing. Taking action is another thing. You're still, again, it's the individual. It's not necessarily.
I'm not saying it's going to correct everything, and of course you can have problems, right? But there is an influence from your neighbors. Is all I'm saying. It's not perfect, but that's essentially what I'm saying. But let's do final thoughts, guys, because Danny will have us going. I'm trying to get to 45 minutes. That's my goal.
Yeah.
Cassandra Spruill with Ardhi Real Estate. Just what are your final thoughts as far as so you're a bougie elitist. You don't want the brokies living next to you. Gotcha. We don't really have. You're just like get it how you can get it. Is that your?
No,
final
not
thoughts?
necessarily.
You don't think we need to do anything with zoning laws? Make
I
things
absolutely
more
don't know. That's what I was going to get to.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessarily about who I want or don't want living next to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a larger problem than that. It's way bigger than who I want or don't want living next to me.
Right.
So until we could target the bigger issues, I don't think my opinion.
So we should address the economy and stuff like that. You think that's a better way to solve?
It trickles down. It's a trickle down effect. So we're moving from the back or the bottom when it's all the way up here, the problem, and it's going down. So I feel like who I want or don't want next to me it doesn't matter. The problem is greater than that. There's not enough houses to begin with. There's a shortage.
Well, you don't want people to build houses because you don't want to allow.
I didn't say don't build houses.
So would you allow a duplex next to your house?
Sure.
Oh, you would?
Yes.
Wait, but you said you don't want brokies living next to you. I'm confused.
So a duplex has to mean you're a brokey?
Oh, so it has to be a rich duplex, though, like a high-income
duplex.
duplex.
If I'm in a neighborhood where it's the average home prices are $300,000, duplex or single family, then that's what the neighborhood calls, right? So whatever price point I'm at, like I feel like that's what the rest of the surrounding neighborhood should be about. But again, I feel like the problem is bigger than the price of the home. There's not enough homes to begin with.
Well, that was the whole premise, is that we need to change the zoning to allow more housing to be built, but people are going to complain that they are building housing. Housing density is going to make the houses cheaper.
Well, that's what it'll have to be. I mean,
but people will complain that you're building duplexes, fourplexes, and stuff like that in their neighborhood, so no one's going to allow it, which causes this problem.
But again,
because there's not enough houses. So, but I like her point, because there are different ways to fix this, right? We could fix it on the top down, where the median income in this country has not really gone up very much in like 30 years. So, I mean, that's probably a bigger problem.
The median income is like $53,000.
Right. And it's been that way.
Which is crazy, because it makes you in the top 1% of income earners in the entire world. But that's neither here nor there.
People are barely getting by with that.
Right.
On just the standard, like.
And I want to get them people a house, damn it. And y'all don't want them living next to you.
No, they need to be able to get a house.
People could barely afford, this food and gas. Like, they're not affording these house prices. They're not affording. Yeah. They're not affording these houses at these prices.
I'm sad for
these
everyone.
Interest rates. it's a bigger problem. It's a huge problem. Full circle. So
All right.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, Danny?
I mean, final thoughts for me is,
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
I mean, I'm definitely a pull yourself up by your bootstraps type of guy, but more importantly is take care of what you have, you know. For the longest of times, you know, minority communities way back, even when they went into buying like Watts and Crenshaw and all that back in the day, you know what I mean? And white people left. Those houses, that area was still beautiful. You know what I mean? Like for a long time before, you know, the crack epidemic and all that kind of good stuff. So like you got to take care of what you have. Like, you know, just an example, like with the Camden area right now, like, you know, back when I first moved into Fairview, the houses that were out there were really nice. It was, you know, it was all that we had, but the area was just very nice. And then as different people started to move into that particular neighborhood, things began to change based on the individuals moving in, not necessarily, you know, the pricing of the house and whatever the case may be. My mom bought the house for like $50,000, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, full basement, corner lot, 3 different yards in the city. It was great. You know, I had a bunch of friends, everything like that. But everybody on the block knew, hey, we're going to take care of what we have. We had a guy down the end of the street by the name of Mr. Kev that worked for Waterworks. Anytime somebody needed something to get done with the water, he took care of that. Anytime it snowed, he brought his plow through from work, cleaned up the streets. We shoveled all of our sidewalks. We kept our grass clean. And, you know, when you came into that area, it was like, wow, this is a nice place to live, which it was at that time. Now you go there, you go to see my previous house that luckily we were just able to sell. Like, what the heck is going on? The fence is hanging off. Like, there's a bunch of different stuff going on. So take advantage of what you have and take care of the property that you own. And if you don't own the property, take care of it as well. I know many people that invest in, you know, affordable neighborhoods, and you know, you'll get a house that's nice, just got renovated, got all the recessed lighting, the lights are nice, and the bathrooms and the kitchen, and then a couple years later it's like, who the hell lived here?
Yeah,
you got to take care of your stuff.
Yeah, that's a bigger problem. I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys agree with me that we should amend the zoning and everything to try to make it, you know, from the backside, like Cassandra said, change housing to accommodate more affordability, or get in where you can fit in? That's it. Ardhi Real Estate Podcast. Let us know what you guys think. See you.